Hello YouTube, this is Marcus or Garrowin again with another video. Today's video is actually going to be a response video to some comments I received on one of my other videos. I uploaded a video a while back entitled This Linux User's Perspective on Windows 10, where I gave some of my honest opinions of Windows 10, and some of the comments on that video actually asked me to do some Wireshark testing on my Windows 10 box. Now I have been a little bit hesitant to install Wireshark on my production machine because with the Windows version it has to install WinPCAP, and I remember the last time I installed that and ZenMap both at the same time on a production machine, I ran into some heartache because they came bundled with different versions of WinPCAP and there was some conflict, and so but what I figured I'll do, and plus also on my production machine I actually have quite a lot of stuff intentionally turned on, like location settings and things. And so what I thought I would do, because there was basically two major thought processes that I wanted to, or two types of comments on that video that I wanted to tackle. The first ones were basically saying do a Wireshark test and see what it's actually sending out, and the other comments were basically saying that the radio buttons that you're presented with don't actually do anything. And so what I'm doing here is I'm actually creating a Windows 10 virtual machine, and we're going to run some experiments. I'm going to run Wireshark with a lot of things turned on, and then I'm going to go turn off a lot of those things and run Wireshark for a little while longer and see what else happens. And you know, see if the amount of traffic being sent and received is increased or reduced, what type of traffic is on there, is any of it plain text readable or is it at the very least encrypted, you know, and just see what kind of information we can get. So we've got our virtual machine started here. I have started the installation process where basically I pointed it to, you know, I've told it to install to the drive, and this is the very next screen that you get here. So I have not actually changed anything yet. So instead of hitting Use Express Settings, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go to Customize here, and we're going to intentionally leave everything turned on here. Okay. Okay. Alrighty, so you can see here we are at the account creation page here. Now I am not going to tie this to my Microsoft account because a lot of the traffic that my production machine produces is probably syncing up with my Microsoft account. So I'm going to go ahead and say skip this step, and we're going to create a local account. So we're just going to say VM user, no password. Use Cortana. Why not? Because we're turning everything on. Alrighty, so your PC has an update waiting. The update has new Windows 10 features and the latest security updates to help protect you. Well, over here on networks, do you want to allow your PC to be discoverable by other PCs? Yes. Even though the network, there we go. I understand that this will start a download of approximately 4 gigabytes and internet access fees may apply. That's fine, because one of the things we're going to do is I'm going to install all of the Windows updates before we run the Wireshark test on it, so that it is a completely, as of today, June the 7th, 2017, it is going to be a completely up-to-date machine. So we'll go ahead and let it run these updates, and we will be back when it's done. Alrighty, so we're back here after that most recent update. Let's see what happens here. Alright, it's wanting to revisit some of our settings here. So again, the first thing we're going to do is leave everything turned on, do a Wireshark test, and then turn everything off and do a Wireshark test. So we're going to leave all of this turned on. We're going to use Cortana. Okay. Alrighty, so we're at the desktop here. Thank you for updating to the latest version of Windows. It seems to be having a little bit of a brain fart here with I guess the fact that we're using it in a virtual machine. So let's go ahead real quick and there we go, insert guest edition CD image, and hopefully this will have the correct display driver for the VirtualBox hardware. There it goes. It just took a minute to pick up. Alright, so now we have, so now when we do this, bam. Okay, so it does have the display driver installed properly. So now we're going to go to the settings here and go to, where to go? Update and security. Check for updates. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to check for updates and install all the available updates, including the creators update, which I believe at this point in time is still optional. But I'm going to go ahead and install that, and then let the Wireshark run for, I don't know. I guess it just depends on how busy it looks. If it looks like it's racking up tons and tons of traffic, we may want to let it run for a couple of minutes. But if it's going to take a while, I may leave it running for a half hour or so. But I'll let you guys know. We're not going to include all of that in the video here. So updates are available. Initializing updates. So okay, we still have Windows updates to install. So I will be back once all of the updates are done. We have the device drivers installed. So I'm going to go ahead and get it completely up to date, and we will be back when that's done. Alrighty, so we're back here. It appears that we are all done with updates. I'm going to guess that large 4 GB plus update was actually the creators update. So let's go ahead and go get Wireshark and see what's going on. Now one thing I did notice is that there is, even though I do not have these things installed from the Windows Store on my PC, I guess it's sort of advertising apps here. Are they installed? It says uninstall. But these are, I guess, pre-installed with Windows 10. I've never played that one before. I've never played that one. But that's kind of interesting. I may have just hit uninstall and then turned off the little option to auto install that stuff on mine. Because as you can see here, the only thing in my start menu is stuff that I have specifically put here. You know, there was an option that you could turn off those auto install, the auto installation of select games and applications. But anyway. Okay, cool. I don't care. Wireshark. Run Wireshark. Alrighty. Now, it's been a while since I messed with Wireshark. It looks different, but okay. There used to be like an interface list up here, I do believe. Let me see, options, Ethernet. Okay, start, and we'll maximize it here. Live capture in progress. Okay. Just to see. There. Okay, there's some traffic. When we opened up the start menu, I guess it was checking for stuff. I guess those apps that are in the start menu there. But okay, so when I clicked the start button, that triggered that stuff. So what I will do is I will leave this running for, let me see, it is currently, well, according to this, it's 4:59 a.m. It's not really. Actually, let's stop it. Let's close this capture. Continue without saving. Alright. Let's go ahead, adjust date time. Turn this off. Set it to the correct time zone. Where are we at here? There. Set time automatically. Okay. And just for the heck of it, because I have actually had Windows machines refuse to pull updates if the clock was wrong, so we'll go ahead and check for updates again real quick. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start a live capture here of the Ethernet, and I'm just going to leave it running. It's currently 8 o'clock. I will come back at 8:30 and see what we've got. We'll leave it running for about a half an hour. Alrighty, so I actually stopped this recording at 8:16. I've just kind of been poking around here. You can see I brought up a command prompt to verify what the IP address of this virtual machine is, and you can see here, well, for one, we've got 824,000 packets. There's no way we're going to be able to analyze all of that, but we can see here that we have some phoning home. I ran a whois on some of these IP addresses, so like packets 1 and 2 with this 204.791.97.200. That is a Microsoft IP address, as well as this 131.253.34.243 that is encrypted. But before we get too deep into actually analyzing what's going on here and what kind of phoning home it's doing, what I want, I've already saved this scan, so we can re-import this scan later and analyze that data. We've got it saved here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go into our settings here, go to privacy, and we're going to turn everything off. Even if it doesn't sound like it should be related to network traffic, we're going to turn it off. So on this one, we don't have an option to turn off diagnostic data altogether. I believe this is actually related to crash data, like if Windows itself or a Microsoft application crashes, this is how much information you send them. So we're going to say basic. So we have moved all of those radio buttons to the off position. We will now close Wireshark, reboot the virtual machine, make sure that those radio buttons stay in the off position. And I think I may go ahead and just go and check for those pre-installed apps like Candy Crush and all that garbage, and uninstall those games and applications that came pre-installed, and then run the Wireshark test. So the Wireshark test will be given a best case scenario for somebody who is not linking their Microsoft account to anything. They've got all the privacy options turned off, so that nothing should be able to access their stuff, and they have uninstalled all of those pre-installed games like Candy Crush and all that. So, and then we'll run the Wireshark. Since we stopped the other one at 15 minutes, we'll start this one and let it run for 15 minutes, and then check and compare, number one, how many packets of data are transmitted, because we're not going to be able to analyze 800,000 packets of data, but we can look at large patterns. Is it phoning home to this address under this protocol a lot? Is there any plain text readable information in that? And see if we can't figure a little bit of something out. So we'll get the virtual machine back up and running here. Alrighty, so we're back at the desktop. Let's go check and make sure that all of those privacy settings stayed the way we put them. Privacy. Oh, I didn't see this option before. Location for this device off. There we go. And now the location service is grayed out. Tracking. That's off. 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 So it looks like all of our radio buttons have stayed where we put them with the reboot. Alright, so since they all stayed, there's no reason to think that this would change. I just didn't see this the first time around. So now let's go back. We'll go to apps, and we're going to uninstall. Now, I have not actually manually installed anything on this machine except for Wireshark. So we're going to go ahead and uninstall this Candy Crush garbage. I don't know why that should come with your desktop operating system, but especially since it's one that you pay money for, but okay. We have gotten rid of all the crap. Oh, okay, so that one's not installed. That's just a little advert for that particular game. Okay. So let's go ahead and open our Wireshark here. Alrighty, so it is currently 8:33. Go ahead. I'm trying to think, is there anything else that I have missed that could be sending and receiving data that shouldn't be? I don't think so. Let me look. Gaming. Let's just see what's in there. Record game clips. Nope. Game DVR. Broadcasting, game mode. We'll turn that off since it's not going to be a gaming rig, and just in case it has something tied to it here. Accounts, email and app accounts, sign in options, sync your settings is off. Okay. Oh, and by the way, I have actually not entered a license key for this copy of Windows 10, and I don't see Windows isn't activated. Activate Windows now. So some features I saw in the accounts thing were disabled, but you can use it without a license key. But anyway, I believe we've got, let's look, network and internet. So I think we're good. So it is now 8:35. Let's go ahead and start the capture, and we will say at 8:50 we will be back and see what it looks like. Alrighty, so the scan is done. I've had time to look at the results here and see what's going on. Now, before we actually get into the nitty-gritty details, I need to give you guys a full disclaimer. I do not have the software or tools necessary to analyze the contents of the packets that we have captured if it's not already plain text readable, which applies in most cases. Now, sometimes you can see, pad.foothills.net. Sometimes there is a modicum of plain text readable information in a packet, but most of the time you're not going to be able to just look at it in Wireshark and see what was in the packet. The most valuable information we're going to have is who was it communicating with, how long did the communication last, what protocol was used, and what ports and other information is available over here in this info column. So let's cover some of the concerns that were mentioned in the comment section of that last video before we start talking about what's going on here in Wireshark. First of all, the radio buttons here have not turned themselves back on. And when I did the 4+ gigabyte creators update, you'll notice if I include the video clip, which I should have, it actually prompted me to revisit my privacy settings like it did on my production machine. Because when you do the creators update, it does turn some things back on if they're turned off, but then it prompts you to revisit your settings. So I have turned all these things off. I did a reboot, and they have stayed off. So for those of you who thought that the radio buttons would magically turn themselves back on, they haven't. Now, if you remember in the first scan where everything was turned on, we had 800,000 packets captured in 15 minutes. In the second scan here, and you can see I do not have any these are the default filters. You can see that I have where are we at here? Every checkbox checked for enabled protocols for it to watch for. I have not done anything funky to reduce the amount of traffic displayed here in Wireshark. And with everything turned off, we've cut the number of packets captured in 15 minutes to 1,601. So that is a dramatic decrease in the amount of traffic that's taking place. So for those of you who said that turning the radio buttons off doesn't actually do anything, you're wrong. It does. It dramatically decreases the amount of network traffic that your computer participates in. Now, a lot of the traffic you can see here, router solicitation over some IPv6 addresses, most of this is the computer, or the virtual machine in this case, communicating with other devices on my network. Basically just saying, are you still there? Where's this guy at? Just normal network traffic back and forth with devices on a local network. However, there were two organizations that it communicated with over a variety of IP addresses and port numbers. And those are Microsoft and Akamai. Now, the Microsoft, it communicated with, when it communicated with Microsoft, it was the sysinternals. And so, like I said, I don't know for a fact because the contents of the packets are not plain text readable. But most of the time when it communicated with sysinternals, it was literally like 2 lines in Wireshark. And there was very little data in there it looked like just a keep alive request, just saying, I think one of them actually had the plain readable words connection test in the packet, is why I put connection test over here in the notes on the spreadsheet. But that, I'm guessing, is probably that diagnostic data where we were not able to turn it off completely, but we turned it back to basic, and so that's probably what this is. The other organization it communicated with was Akamai. Now, when I first saw Akamai, I was a little bit concerned because when I think Akamai, I think, Facebook games and things. Apparently, however, Akamai is a content delivery company. That's their specialty. They've developed all sorts of different technologies for delivery of content, and they can facilitate everything from video streaming to RSS feeds. And they have partnered with Microsoft for that purpose. And if you go down here and you look at some of, let me see if I can find one here where it's actually, you can actually read, because there's a couple of these where the contents of the packet actually give away what is going on here. Let me see if I can track one down. There we are. You can see a lot of these storeimages.microsoft.com, but it's communicating with an Akamai IP address. And since Akamai is a content delivery company, and they've partnered with Microsoft, what I'm guessing is that this pertains to the live tiles in your start menu, because as you can see here, it has today's headlines along with the little Xbox app and the OneNote app here. It pulled in the weather for Washington State, and since it has today's headlines, it did have to go in and pull in the information regarding this headline, including those little image thumbnails. A while ago it actually had a different one up here. And all of the traffic, even with Akamai, was very short-lived. The longest one we've got is this one, and even this one takes place in a span of less than 2 seconds. So not much information was sent and received over that communication. And these are the only 2 people that it communicated with other than devices on my local network. So the computer is behaving as I expected it would. So in summary, the radio buttons do not turn themselves back on when you turn them off. Turning the radio buttons off does actually work. It does actually turn off that feature and reduce the amount of network traffic taking place. And even with everything turned off, the communication that it does do with Microsoft is, as far as I can tell with the tools and information at my disposal, the communication that does take place with everything turned off is normal traffic that does not appear to be anything shady or aimed at spying on you or sending your naked pictures to Microsoft or anything of that nature. So, and that was the goal of this video. The goal of this video was basically to see if turning off those radio buttons does indeed work. Now, if you turn on the radio buttons, you're going to have a lot more network traffic being sent and received by your computer. But you can rest assured that if you turn those functions off, they do actually, the radio buttons do actually function to turn off features and reduce network traffic. So if you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, or suggestions, please feel free to post them in the comment section below. And as always, this is Marcus out. Y'all have a good one.